The Midnight Dispatch is a fictional podcast inspired by real people and events. Characters have been dramatized for entertainment purposes and artistic exploration. This is not a documentary. It is a work of imagination and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Scene 1. Curtain Call at Breakfast. The pale wash of morning light bleeds through tall windows, casting a dull hue that stretches oddly across the walls while mingling with the soft gray of dawn. The air smells of cigar smoke with the faintest curl of absinthe, lingering like an old indulgence. A room designed to resemble thought but dressed in pleasure, where every object is curated to look accidentally perfect. Oscar Wilde reclines on a chaise upholstered in something impractically exquisite, his dressing gown draped like a stage curtain. He swirls a pale concoction in his glass, not wine, not quite tea, staring absently at the hearth as if expecting it to recite verse. Across from him, Harry Houdini leans forward with elbows resting on his knees, boots still dusted from travel, watching Wilde the way a magician watches a crowd, half anticipation, half suspicion.
You live well, Wilde. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were hiding something profitable in all this luxury.
Ah, the luxury is a kind of illusion, isn't it? I simply know how to make it believable.
Illusion, sure. But you believe in more than tricks, don't you?
Oscar tilts his head slightly, studying him, waiting for that precise moment when skepticism falters and curiosity slips through.
Belief is a delicate thing, Harry. You believe in control. I believe in narrative, and Doyle believes in ghosts.
Harry exhales through his nose, eyes flicking toward the fire.
After everything we saw, I'm not sure belief has much to do with anything anymore. Whatever was happening down there, beneath that godforsaken prison, it wasn't science. And if you hadn't shown up, Oscar, I would have ended up on one of those tables.
Then let us call it what it truly was, an exhibition badly lit and poorly curated, one I intend to discuss at great length with Melville. He has a keen eye for aberrations and an even keener taste for the unspeakable. But not today, Harry. The fire is all but ash, the drink is sharp, and I refuse to share my breakfast table with talk of murderous lizards or crazy men disguised as monks. Let that horror sleep beneath the floorboards a while longer.
Well, you have my thanks and gratitude.
Barnum, that splendid circus of a man, has ever been my ally in life's grand pantomime. I dare say, a favour returned in kind is simply good etiquette, especially when that favour involves joining me and my associates in unravelling the ghastly tangle of Jack's crimson handiwork.
Just then, the door creaks open, slow and deliberate. Wilde's glass stops mid-swirl. As if beckoned, Arthur Conan Doyle steps into the room carrying the weight of the outside world with him. His coat is damp from the mist, his expression carefully composed, but Wilde notices the tension in his jaw, the thoughts not spoken.
Ah, Arthur, come in. Do hurry. Houdini was just discussing the nature of belief. What shall I tell him about yours?
Doyle begins removing his gloves with slow precision.
You may tell him that belief is nothing without evidence, and that evidence is precisely why we have been summoned today.
Harry stands and shakes the man's hand.
Summoned. You make it sound as if we're walking into something preordained.
Doyle meets his gaze, holding it just a fraction too long.
Perhaps we are.
Wilde leans back in his chair, intrigued but unsurprised. Doyle is always careful, always aware. But today there's something in him that feels prepared.
There's been another murder, this time on Fleet Street. The body was discovered only this morning. Scotland Yard's already pacing in circles. But I'll say this plainly. I have every reason to believe this one isn't the work of our elusive friend, Saucy Jack.
Bold of you to dismiss him so quickly. Fleet Street and Whitechapel are only a few shadows apart. What makes you so certain our killer isn't diversifying?
The details, Oscar. The victim was a man, middle-aged, a pawnbroker. Throat slit, no mutilation, no theatrics. No sigils or missing organs, no signs of ritual or dissection. It was swift, brutal, and utterly unimaginative.
You're saying it's just a regular murder, ordinary violence.
If such a phrase even belongs in our vocabulary, then yes, Jack is precise, symbolic. His victims are exclusively women, and his scenes tell stories, horrific ones. This was murder in the traditional sense.
Well then, we shall mourn the absence of artistry. You can catch us up in the carriage, Arthur, and try not to bury the lead. We've only got so many cobblestones before we arrive.
Scene 2. The Anatomy of Perception. The carriage rolls past rows of sunlit windows, the kind that catch light but rarely let it in. Morning in London is a performance of clatter and commerce, with newspaper ink still damp and shoe polish glinting with pride. And yet inside the carriage, the mood sits between tension and reflection. Still, but not quiet. Doyle leans back in his seat, striking a match with clinical grace, lighting a cigarette as though he's done so at crime scenes, war rooms, and funerals alike. Wilde watches him from across the cabin, not with suspicion, but curiosity. Doyle rarely looks this composed before the performance begins. Houdini adjusts his cuffs, impatient. His body language is one long exhale, the kind that keeps breaking before it's finished. Doyle speaks evenly, not bothering with preamble.
This case is being handled by an old friend of mine. You may know the name. Dr. Joseph Bell.
Oscar's brows lift, a slow smile forming.
Ah, the man who sees all. I assume we're being beckoned not for our wit, but for our reactions.
Doyle exhales smoke toward the window, gaze unfocused, but voice steady.
Melville believes Bell's insight will bring clarity. I believe it will do something more dangerous. It'll confirm what London refuses to see.
What London refuses to see? You mean hysteria? I've watched cities chase phantoms, blame demons, whisper curses. Hardly any of it survives scrutiny.
Doyle doesn't respond, but Wilde does. He straightens just slightly, his gaze sharpening though his tone remains playful.
Then perhaps, Harry, scrutiny is precisely what London needs. Not superstition, not distraction, just someone willing to look long enough and not blink. Also, Joseph Bell is no mere doctor. He's the scalpel London wishes were a sword. Arthur studied under him, watched the man diagnose ailments from across the room. He could tell a coal miner from a sailor based solely on the angle of their left shoe.
He pauses, letting the idea unfold. Harry perks up, listening intently.
Bell is not just reason. He's refined intuition dressed as logic. And more importantly, he's the real-life man behind Doyle's great detective. Every deductive leap that Sherlock Holmes makes in his fictional mysteries, you should know that Bell took it first, usually before breakfast and without asking questions.
Harry leans forward slightly, brow furrowed.
So Doyle didn't invent Holmes. He transcribed him.
Precisely. If the Ripper is performing a grotesque opera beneath London's civility, Bell is the man who reads the score, and you, my dear escape artist, are about to witness the original performance.
The carriage slows. The cobbled street is bright and busy, but the constable waiting near the storefront doesn't move. Fleet Street approaches, not quiet, not ominous, but expectant, like a stage before the curtain. Wilde steps out first, adjusting his coat as though stepping onto a stage. Houdini follows, sharper, eyes scanning the surroundings. Doyle lingers, just for a moment, then steps down onto the stone. Bell's already inside the dimly lit shop, his back to the door, eyes fixed on the body slouched on the floor. The pawn shop is small, cluttered, Not messy, but packed with objects that do not belong together. Watches, coins, lockets, books worn from hands long gone. Every item tells a story. Doyle steps inside first, his voice carrying more familiarity than expected.
Dr. Bell, a pleasure, as always.
Bell barely glances up.
Arthur, you bring an audience this time.
We do love a good show.
Bell finally looks at Oscar properly, assessing him, not with curiosity, but with quiet focus, as if he already knows everything he needs to.
Your coat is tailored to disguise weight fluctuation, vanity over necessity. You carry no pocket watch, relying on external structure rather than personal discipline. Your left cuff is slightly misaligned, meaning you dressed in haste though not distress. A social engagement, perhaps. Unimportant but telling.
The tall man steps forward, glancing once at Oscar's hands, steady and carefully poised.
A writer's fingers, habitual ink stains, though none visible today, not because they are absent, but because you were conscious enough to scrub them away. You expected scrutiny.
Wilde smirks, but there's the slightest flicker of tension behind his amusement.
You wanted it.
Bell continues, voice unwavering.
You do not drink absinthe in excess, but you keep it displayed prominently. An aesthetic choice, reinforcing reputation rather than habit. You relish contradiction, but only in matters that do not genuinely unsettle you. And yet...
Bell's eyes narrow just slightly. Just enough.
You watch me more than you watch the crime scene. Not in camaraderie, not in rivalry, but in interest. You suspect, you calculate, and yet you hesitate.
Oscar's smile does not falter, but it shifts, just a fraction. Bell finally steps away, his assessment complete.
You will ask me how I knew, Mr. Wilde, but you already know the answer. Observation does not require belief, only attention.
He has landed precisely where he intended. Houdini exhales sharply, shaking his head.
I can't decide if I respect you, or if I'd rather you never look at me again.
Wilde laughs, fully, charmingly, but unmistakably controlled.
Dr. Bell, you are exquisite. I do hope you plan to analyse our dear Houdini next. He's rather sensitive about scrutiny, though I'm endlessly curious what nuances you might unveil. As I've often said, the truth is rarely pure and never simple, but I suspect you have a talent for complicating even that.
Dr. Bell turns, not sharply, but with deliberate precision, like a chess master finally addressing a piece across the board. His gaze settles on Houdini with quiet intensity, the kind that weighs more than words. Bell is a tall man, lean without fragility, dressed in a charcoal morning coat that bears no ornament but perfect tailoring. His eyes, slate-colored and steady, seem to catalog details instinctively. The tension in Harry's jaw, the placement of his hands, the scuff on the heel of his boot. A neatly trimmed beard leans an air of quiet authority, and his movements betray none of the impatience that often marked men of intellect, only discipline, observation, and something coolly magnetic. Bell brushes past Harry, eyeing him up and down as he walks a slow circle around him. He shakes Harry's hand gently, and when he finally speaks, his voice is low and tempered, as though each word has already passed through a filter of reason.
You adjust your cuffs repeatedly, not out of habit, but because you dislike restriction. The act of confinement unsettles you, even in trivial moments.
And yet, I make my living escaping confinement. What a paradox.
Bell does not smile. He tilts his head slightly, continuing.
Your boots are perfectly polished, but the soles are worn unevenly, proof of deliberate posture adjustment compensating for a prior injury, not fresh but not forgotten.
Houdini shifts his stance instinctively, hiding the reaction. Wilde grins, delighted.
Your fingernails show faint traces of lacquer, not vanity, but necessity. An illusionist must disguise imperfections, ensuring the audience sees only what they are meant to.
Bell finally meets Houdini's gaze properly. His tone tightens, just slightly.
And most importantly, you dislike being watched when you are not performing. This is not showmanship. This is scrutiny, and scrutiny unnerves you.
Houdini huffs a quiet breath, rolling his shoulders back. His smile is sharp, but tight.
Very impressive, Doctor. And yet, unlike Oscar, I believe you may have missed something.
Bell raises an eyebrow, intrigued. Houdini steps forward, flicking his wrist with practiced ease, as Bell's pocket watch appears between his fingers.
You see everything, Dr. Bell. And yet, you did not see me take this. How curious.
Bell exhales once, sharp, as though filing the observation away. He takes the timepiece from Harry as Wilde laughs, fully entertained. Doyle watches, carefully neutral. Finally, Bell steps away, returning his focus to the crime scene while replacing the watch in his inner coat pocket.
Okay, gentlemen, shall we begin?
Scene 3. The scene of the crime. The pawnshop speaks in whispers. Dust hangs in shafts of gray morning light, drifting through narrow panes and settling over forgotten glass. Inside, the air smells of dry wood and aging paper, like attic air filled with curios of times long past. Counters hold objects too intimate to be this unsupervised, wedding bands without partners, eyeglasses too worn to see, a Bible left open to a page no longer legible. Nothing in the room appears touched, and yet everything feels handled. There is no blood trail, only the sense of interruption, like something unfinished lingered too long. He lies behind the counter, half sheltered by a faded curtain drawn halfway across the doorway to the back room. The body is collapsed sideways, one shoulder pressed awkwardly against a cabinet hinge, as though he'd fallen mid-turn. His coat is askew, his face turned away, but what's visible is pale and slack. The blood isn't pooled, but laced across the floorboards, caught in the seams. It hasn't dried fully. Whatever happened didn't happen long ago. Bell stands near the center of the room, still yet studious of the scene. Oscar steps quietly around the edge of the counter, his gaze flicking from the body to the counter to the rest of the room. Dr. Bell moves toward the far end of the counter, fingertips brushing a layer of settled dust beside a ledger. He doesn't lift it yet. Arthur steps in from the shop's entrance, removing his gloves slowly as he takes it all in.
Someone tried to force that cabinet.
The other three look at him in unison as he gestures to the brass face beneath the counter, angled awkwardly toward the floor. There are scratches, frustrated, shallow, almost surgical in repetition. Doyle approaches the counter, his eyes scanning beneath its lip where the cabinet face is slightly misaligned. He crouches, brushing away a layer of dust to reveal the gleam of old brass. A small keyhole sits at the center, scratched, shallow, and slightly distorted. He exhales, steady.
It's not just storage, it's a safe.
Bell moves beside him, examining the metalwork without touching it.
Built into the counter. Not decorative, meant to be forgotten until needed.
I may be new to crime scenes, but I'm no stranger to difficult locks.
Harry kneels, running a finger across the gouges.
Bad tool. Worse technique. They knew it was here, but not how to open it.
Oscar leans on the counter edge, watching with interest.
Which means it wasn't his secret alone. Someone expected access and didn't get it.
Bell straightens, his eyes narrowing as he scans the room again, looking not at objects, but at absence.
They came for what they believed belonged to them, and when they couldn't retrieve it, they erased the witness.
Bell rests one hand gently atop the pawn ledger, its surface worn to a thin sheen, and its corners softened by years of casual ritual. The binding creaks as he opens it, less a sound than a sigh. He flips past pages of tidy, methodical entries, silver pendants, brass clocks, items logged with values and names and dates. But then he stops. His finger presses against a blot of ink, fresher than the rest, imperfectly soaked into the fibers.
Item received, amulet, gold inlaid, no origin, estimated value, uncertain, seller unidentified.
Oscar peers over his shoulder, eyes narrowing with delight.
No initials, no context. It reads less like a transaction and more like a secret.
He didn't record it because it was valuable. He recorded it because he knew someone might come looking.
Bell flips backward 2 pages and pauses, then forward again.
No prior mention, no update, no sale. This ledger only tells half the story. There's clear mention that the object arrived, but no official transaction of it being sold.
His voice lowers as he starts putting together the clues.
Which means the object never left the shop.
Oscar leans against the counter, watching Bell read.
Therefore it may still be here. Or it may be what they came to take.
Houdini circles back toward the safe. His movements are slower now, more deliberate.
Then let's find out what he was protecting. If they didn't find it, maybe we will.
Houdini crouches beside the brass-faced safe, the gouges still catching light like old wounds. He lays out a handful of tools, not theatric, just well-used and clean. The others stand back slightly, the silence stretching thin as he works. His hands move with quiet certainty. A soft click, then another. The tension shifts, not in sound, but in posture, everyone leaning by degrees. He exhales through his nose.
It's not a complex lock, just a stubborn one.
He turns the dial gently. The latch gives, not all at once, but in stages, like a secret resisting its own confession. Then the door swings open. Inside, a stack of parchment, folded with meticulous care, a small pouch of coins, its drawstring cinched impossibly tight, and a single envelope, pressed flat, marked with a wax seal no brighter than dried blood. The seal bears a pattern, an upright triangle with a cross positioned above it. There's a rising sun in the center of the triangle. Houdini doesn't touch anything yet. He just looks.
None of this was meant to be found.
Bell steps forward slowly, taking the envelope first, not with reverence, but precision. He turns it in his hands, examining the paper's weight and the integrity of the seal, which has already been cracked. Oscar leans closer, fingers steepled. Bell unfolds the parchment. The paper crackles faintly.
To the recipient of item 93, your role in this transaction is temporary. Custody does not imply ownership. All transfers must be completed without replication. Delay may result in reassignment.
Reassignment. That's not a change in plan. That's a threat.
Arthur, do you recognize this seal?
Doyle removes a monocle from his coat pocket and examines the seal intently.
I do indeed. The seal belongs to the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, a secretive society devoted to the study of the occult and metaphysical arts. They traffic in mysticism, ritual magic, and arcane sciences, borrowing liberally from Egyptian, Greco-Roman, and Kabbalistic traditions. Not quite a gentleman's club, though many of its members dress like one. Their ceremonies are labyrinthine, their hierarchies esoteric, and their true purpose elusive even to its initiates.
He didn't die for the amulet. He gave it freely, probably to save his life.
Oscar crosses his arms, voice suddenly subdued.
Then why kill him?
Houdini lifts the remaining letters from inside the safe, still folded, some sealed, one half torn. He studies them, jaw tight.
Well, this is curious. These letters are from W.B. Yeats, and he refers to himself as Imperator of the London Temple. He doesn't mince words. The amulet's theirs. He says it bears the mark of their rights, something about elemental alignment and symbolic resonance. Sounds like the kind of thing that gets you expelled from stagecraft, not inducted into a temple. I'd say it's nonsense. But nonsense seems to bleed real blood these days.
Wilde takes the letters and shuffles through them with trivial amusement.
Ah, dear William, forever torn between verse and veils, the man writes like a seraph and now communes like a sorcerer. I suppose the London Temple is where poets go when metaphors no longer suffice, and reality becomes too vulgar to bear without a ritual. At least we know the amulet's pedigree, part talisman, part theatrical prop and wholly poetic delusion. Naturally, Yeats would treasure it.
London has many secrets, I assure you. Beneath our familiar clubs and parlours lies a maze of societies, cloaked in ritual. The Golden Dawn is merely one. Others gather in old churches, rented cellars, even libraries, each swearing by secrets older than empire. Their members are scholars, statesmen, artists, and charlatans. They traffic in alchemy, astral travel, numerology. A curious lot, but some wield belief like a blade.
Doyle points at a drawing, a sketch from Yeats of the amulet in question. The amulet is sketched as a symmetrical cross, each arm marked with a blend of astrological and Kabbalistic symbols. At its center blooms a rose, intricately shaded, suggesting motion, almost breathing, encircled by a slender ring of planetary glyphs aligned to cardinal directions. Faint annotations in Yeats's hand call for vermilion, indigo, and gold, not merely as color, but as elemental conduits. Along the outer rim, the phrase, "as above, so below," curls like a protective incantation, anchoring the piece in both ritual and mystery. It's less ornament than invocation.
To the uninitiated, it's all theatre. But to them, symbolism is power, layered and precise. And if the Ripper's deeds bear such marks, then we've stumbled into something far more orchestrated than madness.
I met Yeats once in the drawing room of Lady Gregory's townhouse, narrow of frame but vast of vision. He spoke in metaphors even at breakfast, and recited verse with the gravity of a bishop giving last rites. I admired his seriousness then, though I did think it premature in one so young to carry the weight of ancient wisdom on his shoulders. Still he listened, which is rare, and he asked questions that came wrapped in riddles. A poet and a puzzle, but hardly a murderer. He was earnest, painfully so. I remember telling him that sincerity is merely the costume truth wears at funerals. He laughed, though I suspect he didn't know whether I was complimenting him or correcting him.
So Yeats is our biggest clue, one we need to pursue. Clearly the amulet isn't here, but at least we know where it was intended to end up.
If Yeats is casting amulets into shadows and speaking as imperator, then our visit must be not only poetic, but punctual. I think we should pay him a call. I do so love when verse and mystery collide over tea.
We should tread carefully, Oscar. The order recently fractured, the result of internal disputes masked as philosophical differences. MacGregor Mathers, once revered for his arcane mastery, began issuing edicts from Paris and was eventually removed from the London temple he helped build. His elevation of Alistair Crowley, unorthodox, abrasive, and altogether too eager, was the final spark. Yeats and the others resisted, not out of petty pride, but to preserve structure over spectacle. Mathers, Crowley, and a few others formed the group called the Alpha et Omega, no longer affiliated with the Hermetic Order.
He glances meaningfully at Harry and Oscar, implying a tone of seriousness.
Ritual needs order. Without it, the symbols lose cohesion. And in matters of the occult, that's not just aesthetic, it's dangerous. Mathers believed himself above the temple. Crowley believed he was the temple. The rest? They chose exile over chaos.
Then let's follow it, this mystery, this madness, into whatever shadows remain. The city's secrets won't come to us politely. We'll have to chase them.
He throws on his coat, eyes bright, voice clipped with urgency.
And I do love a good chase.
Good evening, listeners. Welcome to the Midnight Dispatch. I'm your host and creator, Joe Ferguson, and this has been episode 6 of Verse and Veil. To all of you who've recently joined us, thank you so much. Every new listener expands this circle of imagination, and your presence keeps the Dispatch alive. Whether you're here for the history, the mystery, or the myth, we're grateful you've chosen to spend your time with us. This project thrives on curiosity and community, and it's your ears, your thoughts, and your support that makes these stories worth telling. One big news announcement is that the Midnight Dispatch will soon be available on Patreon. You'll have access to ad-free episodes, some behind-the-scenes stuff, artwork, early access to new episodes, and some special bonus episodes I'm not quite ready to discuss, but I am finalizing the scripts for now, so stay tuned. Tonight's tale draws us into the smoke-lit parlors and shadowed streets of London, where poets, magicians, and detectives collide with the unseen. Oscar, Arthur, and Harry are joined by Dr. Joseph Bell as they step onto the stage together, each wrestling with belief, evidence, and a strange allure to the occult. What unfolds is not just a murder investigation, but a meditation on how narrative, reputation, and ritual shape the way we see truth. Let's unpack it and delve a little deeper. Dr. Joseph Bell was a real Scottish surgeon and lecturer at the University of Edinburgh. Doyle studied under him, and Bell's methods of keen observation directly inspired the Sherlock Holmes character. He was famous for deducing strangers' occupations and recent activities from small details, a party trick that demonstrated the power of close observation. He was a forensic pioneer. Considered an early figure in forensic pathology, Dr. Joe Bell applied medical observation to crime investigations at a time when science was rarely used in police work. He served as the personal surgeon to Queen Victoria during her visits to Scotland. He established Scotland's first nurses' training course at the Royal Infirmary and edited the Edinburgh Medical Journal for over 20 years. He was president of the Royal College of Surgeons of Edinburgh in 1887, and he was remembered as the man behind Holmes, but also as a reformer in medicine and education. The Joseph Bell Center for Forensic Statistics and Legal Reasoning was named in his honor in 2001. Although the murder mystery here is fiction, Fleet Street was historically the hub of London's press and publishing industry, making it a fitting location for a murder tied to reputation and narrative. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was a real occult society founded in London in 1887. Members included W.B. Yeats, Arthur Machen, and some other literary figures we might run into later. So some themes worth exploring in this episode. One is belief versus evidence. Doyle insists on evidence. Wilde on narrative. Houdini on exposure of fraud. Bell embodies observation as a bridge between all of these. Performance and scrutiny. Wilde frames life as theater. Houdini resents being watched outside performance, and Bell weaponizes observation. The episode asks, is identity performance or truth? Occult versus rationalism. The Golden Dawn represents the allure of mysticism, while Bell represents the scalpel of reason. The tension between ritual and deduction drives the narrative. Reputation and narrative control. The murder being on Fleet Street ties directly to the press. Reputation is as fragile as truth, and narrative can distort reality. Objects as symbols. The amulet embodies the episode's theme. Is it a talisman of power, or simply a prop imbued with meaning by those who believe? This episode blurs the line between historical fact and mythic invention. While Doyle, Houdini, and Bell are real figures, each obsessed with truth in different forms: art, science, exposure, deduction. The Golden Dawn was a real occult society, but here it becomes a stage for exploring how belief, narrative, and evidence collide. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Next week, we will keep following it. This mystery, this madness, and whatever shadows remain. The city's secrets won't come to us politely. We'll have to chase them. Good night, everyone.